Are Trump and MAGA crazy? Reddit lawyers expressed their opinion. Story 1 just now. Senator Alex Padilla assaulted and forced out of DS Secretary Kristi Noem's press conference. What the actual fuck? Anyone have further context? Educated guesses that Padilla crashed her press conference to ask questions about why his state is being used as a political prop by the administration for which she works. She, not liking to be held accountable, probably told her handlers to remove anyone that was doing that. Please folks, prepare yourself. Current legislation is going to move 125 billion to ICE. A 4x increase of their budget. This is just the beginning. Deportations to add almost $1 trillion in costs to the big beautiful bill. The Congressional Budget Office (CBO) estimates the bill will direct an astounding $168 billion of the budget to immigration and border law enforcement. And there is even more for agencies that indirectly support immigration law enforcement. House plans to distort this wildly out-of-whack law enforcement system beyond recognition. H.R. 1 appropriates $168 billion to agencies whose primary purpose is immigration enforcement. It adds $1.2 billion to all other law enforcement for the Secret Service. This sum comes on top of the $33 billion, meaning that if this bill passes, about $100 billion will be made available for immigration enforcement starting in 2025. The People vs. ICE. An uprising against state terror. Trump has currently proposed 2025 budget proposal. His so-called big beautiful bill that recently passed the House of Representatives includes $185 billion in new funding for immigration and border law enforcement. If passed, this will dramatically expand the Department of Homeland Security by nearly doubling its current budget. Specifically for ICE, the bill will allocate $45 billion for immigrant detention and $14 billion for deportation operations. It sure sounded like he was asking her about specific members of her staff with known criminal backgrounds as he was getting assaulted and removed. The list is growing faster by the minute. Added, I believe they are also letting felons become ICE agents. An executive order called for 20 people to be hired by ICE so they ray taking any warm bodies and other individuals. If he is in the building, then he is authorized to be there and not trespassing. So crashing isn't the best description except to the extent he disrupted her fascist nonsense speechifying. And if he is not trespassing, then what we saw here was battery. Those are not federal building security staff. They are just people who didn't like what was being said and chose to put hands on someone without legal privilege or consent. That is battery. B. No later than 60 days after the date of this proclamation, the Secretary of Homeland Security shall supplement existing enforcement and removal operations by deputizing and contracting with state and local law enforcement officers, former federal officers and personnel within other federal agencies, and other individuals to increase the enforcement and removal operations force of the Department of Homeland Security by no less than 20 officers in order to conduct an intensive campaign to remove illegal aliens who have failed to depart voluntarily. If I were a betting man, I'd wager a few of the recently pardoned J6 insurrectionists are getting new jobs. They already have the MEAL Team 6 gear, firearms, and are at least somewhat tactically trained. Hence the balaclavas, because they got it easily by oozing people online after J6. Afterwards they said he wasn't detained, so it sounds like no legal authority at all. Sounds like he was just straight up assaulted. We need to start clarifying when we are allowed to physically resist a Leo that is breaking the law. If I see a cop kneeling on someone's neck, am I allowed to use lethal force in the defense of the life of another? If I watch a cop point their weapon at a woman trying to get into her home, are we allowed to respond in kind? If there isn't a clear answer, or if the answer is no, then it is war. The people must always have the right of self-defense, always. The only mitigation in that is if the Leo is in the conduct of carrying out a lawful act enshrined in due process. Another better question is what will be done. If this was a Republican senator who had been tossed around like that, you can bet your bottom dollar that all of those involved would be up on charges. Democrats need to start employing the same insanity to stop this shit. Fascism. Remember, you ray not allowed to call them Nazis until they ray wearing brown shirts and swastikas. Of course, by then it won't matter. It is time to just call them what they are. They are MAGAs. We should be calling them that. And it should come out of the mouth with nothing but the same disdain and contempt an American soldier in Europe would have used in 1944. Yup, Nome Sadeway are not going away. We are staying here to liberate this city from the socialist and the burdensome leadership that this governor and mayor have placed on this country and what they've tried to insert in this city, all the fascist apologists and those complicit in this shit. May you be reminded that I was just following orders is not an excuse to violate the US Constitution. Ultimately, you are going to be held accountable for your failure to honor your oath to the Constitution and instead followed the whims of a madman. There will be no valid excuse. Story 2. They are arresting Congress members and the mayor of Newark at the ICE detention center. Well, I guess we are past the point of discussing whether or not we are in a constitutional crisis. The executive branch has decided to purposefully violate the law of the land. Now, how do the other branches respond? Full disclosure. I am an idiot, so I put my response in chat GPT and had it redo my dumb people words. I read it. And this is what I'd write if I passed English. I might sound batshit crazy, but hear me out. I've been looking for a new job. I've got an okay one. I am a middle-class dude, and naturally, I get middle-class job offers. 50k, 70k is the general range I pull when I browse. Nothing wild. But that's not what this is about. What's bugging me is this. I keep seeing a ton of job posts for police officers, secret agents, federal roles, whatever the hell, constantly. And it's always in Washington, D.C. Every time I log into Indeed or ZipRecruiter, it's like they recruiting an army of agents and cops in D.C. Here's the thing, I've never searched for cop-related jobs. I've never been in that field. I don't engage with that kind of content, and I am not even close to D.C. I live in Pennsylvania. These jobs should not be showing up in my feed, but they do, over and over. At first, I figured maybe I was just being a paranoid conspiracy nut. I even commented here and there on Reddit before. Like, that's weird, but I never said more because I felt a tinfoil hat about it. But now, I am not so sure I am crazy. I've been scrolling these job boards for years, at least 30 minutes a week, week after week. I know what's normal. This is not normal. It feels intentional. It feels like mass hiring, quietly, consistently, under the radar. And now, when you step back and look at the bigger picture, Trump is talking about making cops face less accountability. Big law firms are being brought in to cover for police misconduct, despite them already having one of the most powerful unions out there, second only to prison guards, maybe even stronger. Then there's the political stuff. Trump and Tom Homan making vague threats, literally saying, something big is coming, floating ideas about arresting public figures like Jasmine Crockett and Ock. Treating dissent like a threat that needs to be shut down. You connect all those dots with what I've been seeing. You start to feel it. This slow, subtle preparation for something ugly. A build-up, maybe not for today, maybe not for tomorrow, but something. It honestly feels like they setting the stage to make an example out of someone, maybe Crockett, maybe Ock. Just one or two to send a message, a test run, and amuse bouch before the main course. I know how this sounds. I feel insane even typing it. But I can't shake it anymore. TL. Drive. I think the government or whatever part of it has been quietly mass hiring police and federal agents in D.C. for years now, especially since Trump came into office. I think it is being targeted to surrounding states to widen the net. I've been watching job markets for years and never seen anything like this before. I think they gearing up for suppression, dissent, control, and they doing it the quiet way. Through job listings and legal power grabs. I just need someone smarter than me to dig into this and verify I am not insane. Because this shit feels real, and I don't think it as a coincidence anymore. Alina Habba tweeting that he is guilty of trespass and disobeying orders from law enforcement and that no one is above the law, all caps. This soon after the blanket pardoning of the J6 traitors is some next level hypocrisy. Barack was there because this facility in the city of Newark, where he is mayor. And after his administration sent notice to the private operator of the facility that they needed to conform to city code and allow inspectors in to make sure they weren't over their allowed number of detainees. This was their response. Let us see them bring charges and let Baraka's peers judge him on trial. Will go really well for the fads, I am sure. Yeah, the same group making Ashley Babbitt's family generationally wealthy, who also was trespassing and disobeying orders. Edit. To the smooth brain replies who have never heard of irony and hypocrisy. This comment is about the statement made by Alina Habba which says no one is above the law. This comment from the same admin giving a massive payout to a traitor who was stopped while trespassing in a much more egregious and violent way during an insurrection in the capital. Have I explained it enough? More? I just read how much they were possibly getting, and honestly, it pissed me off so bad that I had to go rewatch the video of her ass flying through the air after getting tagged in the neck just to cheer me up a little. Dude, her family getting paid millions makes irrationally angry. Like everything they raid doing is awful, but that feels like a final straw. Lol. There as people that spent years, decade, in prison after being wrongfully convicted, and our government will bend over backwards to not pay them anything, but this bitch's family get paid fat purely for political reasons. It is fucking disgusting. There should be intense social pressure against anyone you know who works for ICE. It might not seem like much, but humans are social animals, and if ICE employees get ostracized from social gatherings like they should be, it'll have an effect. Don't date them, don't let them pull any "it's just a job" or "I only work in an office" bullshit. Constantly bring up and berate any friends or family working there about how bad their employer is, and how ashamed they should be for not quitting. Sure, they bitch about cancel culture and woke, but fuck 'em. That is how you know it is getting to them. Are these masked people in plain clothes with militia cosplay gear actually members of ICE, or law enforcement at all? I feel like since they don't wear uniforms, or name tags, or anything, they could be anyone. This is the real question. It seems like someone was like, "Wanna make 40 an hour? Don't ask any questions and get over here," and there are a lot of them. I saw a dude who looked distinctly Latin with a mask on. Simone, man, you ray ashamed for a reason. The same assholes who wouldn't wear a mask when the lives of others were at stake are the same ones who can't wait to hide behind masks to fuck over the lives of others. The second the cons announced a national register for autism, the Dems should have said, "Cool. National registers are okay now, cool. Since you ray setting the precedent, let us talk about the upcoming National Gun Holder Registry." Story 3. Ro Khanna has introduced the Drain the Swamp Act. It will ban White House officials from accepting gifts from lobbyists or becoming lobbyists during the Trump term. I am definitely not a lawyer by no stretch whatsoever, but aren't most of these officials involved with law? I always thought law was pretty black and white with precedent support, backing up arguments with real-world examples. I am new here and try to learn a bit here and there. Should ban special government employees from being a party to any government contracts, including any businesses in which they own more than a 10 stake, with a penalty of rakeback of all federal funds distributed in a 15-year statute of limitations after the last day the person who appointed them holds office at too late. Trump signed an order making bribes from foreign govs okay. I am pretty sure the order allows us to make bribes to foreign officials, not the other way around. That is reserved for the workaround of official government memacoins. Not to say someone won't try, but it would be quite the stretch. The EO is to pause the FSPA, not that the executive branch has that power. I could see it being used to funnel taxpayers' money to his handlers in Russia, but the actual intention is probably, so is oligarchs that sat behind him during inauguration can bribe other countries and get stuff done faster, better, at all. A funny way I could see someone try to argue it is that bribing Trump is legal because he was recruited by the KGB, still handled by the FSB. He is a foreign actor and technically legal. Who needs to accept gifts from lobbyists when you can just give your company giant contracts? We way past covert bribery at this point. We move right along to just taking money. Seriously, there was a time around when Musk was launching cars into space where he could have just coasted on being the cool tech bro science guy while quietly manipulating the government behind the scenes like every other billionaire. Instead, we live in a world where the shadow president can't help but make his presence known at every opportunity, and people hate him for it. Solid politics though. The MAGA movement claims to want to drain the swamp, so here you go. I say they keep trying to introduce this legislature as pet projects for some of the freshmen. Make it known they have no interest in fixing things. Unfortunately, the existence of this bill and Republicans not allowing it to pass wouldn't do as much as one might think. The MAGA genuinely still believe Trump is anti-corruption and wants to drain the swamp, so they'll just say, well yeah, the Republicans turned it down, but Trump is still looking out for us, while continuing to blindly vote for whoever has an R next to their name. Money coming from special interest groups with major obvious conflicts of interest is good because Trump says so. Money going to systems that help vulnerable elderly, children and disabled people with their day-to-day living, and so they don't fucking die is bad because Trump says so. I mean, if Democrats make the main thing they do over the next 4 years is highlighting corruption and wanting to work with Trump to fulfill that promise he made, then they either force Trump to actually do good or make the argument that it's only him and his people that can and will fight corruption. It won't matter to MAGA, but at a certain point, non-MAGAries will probably have to admit that they don't care about corruption or that Trump corruption is somehow different. Once you get there, I think you at least get a key basis of agreement that allows for actual political discourse instead of the world we live in, where MAGA thinks Alan is a super genius that is actually doing good by letting a bunch of teenagers have unlimited access to the American government system. Republicans have successfully voted no unpopular and visible legislature and gotten away with just straight up lying about it in interviews and on social media. Conservative news will remain silent about them lying, and influencers, podcasters, the rep themselves will just say they worked really hard on the bill if it ends up passing. Even if they voted no, they know none of their constituents are going to check the publicly available voting records, and they are preconditioned by their cult leaders to ignore information to the contrary as liberal lies or whatever. They've been groomed to ignore anyone that is actually going to let them know they are being fleeced, and it is disgustingly effective. Look no further than the 2 immigration reform bills a year or two back, where it was popular with the public, bipartisan, and an issue that conservatives are constantly bitching about Dems doing nothing to fix. Dems voted for passing both, but both times Republicans overwhelmingly voted no, supplying a reason that they didn't want Biden or Democrats to get credit for it. Despite that, the messaging on conservative media still ended up being spun that it was the Dems' fault, even though you could just go and check and see who blocked it. A Republican senator could drop their pens and shit on an American flag on the floor, in 4K, on live television, while a court reporter documents the wild thing, and Republicans still would manage to sweep it away and delude themselves into not believing our own lying SIs. It is insane. Should ban special government employees from being a party to any government contracts, including any businesses in which they own more than a 10% stake, with a penalty of rakeback of all federal funds distributed in a 15-year statute of limitations after the last day the person who appointed them holds office. Remember reading an article months or perhaps a year after Gen 6 about one of those jailed who expressed genuine regret for his actions. I think there are people who are sucked into MAGA because it gives them a sense of community and meaning in their lives. I am also concerned because the longer Trump occupies the political sphere, the more I see people falling into the movement. I feel like it is a common practice to blame lack of education, but I've personally seen people with higher degrees move towards MAGA causes and disregard Trump's anti-democratic tendencies, considering the egos everyone has and their inability to see themselves for who they really are. What she said is solid. People are impressionable, and if you are surrounded by close-minded people who think a certain way, it might impact you. Being able to break away from that, learn and reflect is the best you can hope for. She served her time for her role and denounced those actions. Let people grow. If we keep people in their past based on their bad decision-making, everyone casting this type of blame needs to be sure to look in the mirror. She didn't saw things clearly. I just want to take this opportunity to let everyone know that the case that established the right to refuse a presidential pardon, US v. Wilson, was a death penalty case where Mr. Wilson successfully argued his right to refuse a pardon and was executed as a result. I would really like to know what if this guy fought too hard to be executed. MAGA is like an addiction. You have to want to stop, or else it isn't happening. That is what I've kinda picked up on over the years. As a recovering alcoholic, I know what it is like to be disliked. Lol. Story for Trump goes full fascist by saying CNN and MSNBC criticizing him is illegal. There is nothing more quintessentially American than criticizing the political leadership. It was so important to the framers that they enshrined that right into the First Amendment. Why are no MAGA people pushing back on Trump's attempt to hinder free speech? They don't actually care about America, just being on the winning team. They sold out a long time ago because their interpretation of free speech is being allowed to be as racist as they want with no consequences. I need to translate this part of the article. There is no need for proof that a reasonable freedom of writing and printing is one of the firmest pillars upon which a free government can stand. For otherwise, the estates can never possess the necessary knowledge to enact good laws, judges will have no oversight to ensure they follow them in their offices, and the people will have little understanding of the law's demands, the limits of official power, and their own obligations. Learning and reason will be suppressed, coarseness in thought, speech, and manners will gain acceptance, and within a few years, a dreadful darkness will spread over the entire sky of our freedom. This is the express motivation behind the first law in world history guaranteeing freedom of the press. Tryckfrihetsförordningen Verordning and made law in Sweden in 1766. The purpose of freedom of the press was always, since literally the first law, to provide free insight into the government and never like some people claim to have free rein to spread hate against certain demographics. In fact, although it did not become law until 1810, an early draft for the 1766 law did include an exception for slanderous statements about foreign peoples, showing that hate speech was expressly never the motivation behind freedom of the press, because MAGA inherently rejects all freedoms. Their ideology is fundamentally incompatible with freedom, Western values, and our Constitution are whole led to that they have no actual political opinions, just a pathological desire to own the libs no matter how many of their own faces get eaten in the process. When Tuberville was the coach of the University of Cincinnati, my son was a communications major and helped support him with interviews and other communications items. He told me this guy was a quintessential empty suit who didn't care and was only in it for the payday. I've been saying this for years. I know of people who will not enter the state of Michigan because of the Ohio State football rivalry. And of course it is not like they went to college there, or anywhere for that matter. They've just decided on that as their team. They build their identity around their little tribes in every facet of life, entertainment, politics, religion. It is all the same. Our obsession with team loyalty will be the death blow to our country, because we can't seem to see that we should all be on the same side. But I've been a hardcore cynic since high school and my edgy thoughts about society never diminished. Trump is a reflection of this nation as collective apathy and cruelty, and a reflection of what Christianity in America really means, hypocritical judgmental Pharisee. They saw him pointing fingers and casting stones and couldn't wait to join in while crying from a place of privilege that they were the ones being persecuted. Were you paying attention to the surge of anti-Obama rhetoric then? The 10-suit nonsense was 2014. Millions of people were just itching to be a racist piece of shit out in the open after a black man had the audacity to be re-elected. Democrats masked of an asses directly from opponents calling Andrew Jackson a jackass. The most common masked symbol for the party has been the donkey, or jackass. 143 Andrew Jackson's enemies twisted his name to jackass as a term of ridicule regarding a stupid and stubborn animal. However, the Democrats liked the common man implications and picked it up too. Therefore the image persisted and evolved. 140 for that as the first thing they did to ensure freedom of speech. The right wing has lost their collective mind. Who remembers how anti-communist the right used to be? They used to champion freedom and liberty and say how much better our country is than Russia or China. Now they have a leader who is so thin-skinned he wants to eliminate those free speech rights and they want to say a thing about how wrong he is. Cowards. Total projection. Just because Fox News is a political arm of the Republican Party does not mean that real news organizations are political arms of a party. Fox is declared as an entertainment channel for that very reason. CNN was extremely right-wing during the election. If they stop reporting on reality, they would lose their designation as a news channel. What Fox News does should be illegal. If anything, CNN and MSNBC are also arms of the GOP. MSNBC's morning show is hosted by a literal Republican congressman who went to Mar-a-Lago to kiss fat ass after the election. One of their major contributors is the former chair of the rank, and they recently fired all of their brown hosts who were remotely left-leaning. Alan Greenspan's wife was one of their biggest daytime hosts for 16 years. She just retired like a month ago. Story 5 Jasmine Crockett. Instead of the president cosplaying as the next pope, he may want to cosplay as an actual president of these United States. That means he may have to do a little bit of research and understand that he swore an oath to defend and protect the Constitution. Try pretending to be president is the take I didn't know I always needed. Remember his laughable claims that if elected in 2016, he'd never take vacations. Unfoul. Dude was flying to his own properties every weekend, overcharging the government to stay at them, and was so on pace to outspend Obama's entire presidency on vacations that the Secretary Service had to petition Congress for a larger budget as they blew through their 2017 budget faster than expected by reinforcing Trump's penthouse for Melania, who opted to stay in Manhattan for months so she could fuck her bodyguard. And because Trump was charging the Secret Service more to stay at his hotels, the only part of the presidency he cared about was dipping into the federal coffers to line his pockets. He made that clear in his first term, but 78 million people didn't care. They just wanted to hurt people, which Trump is perfect for the job. He has answered so many questions with not knowing and deflecting to his lawyers and the people around him. Remember when Bush called himself the decider? At least we had a coherent mouthpiece. Trump has made it clear he doesn't care about the actual work of the presidency. Think the whole White House 2025 cares a lot, and wants to rack it and destroy it. They are extremely motivated to harm American people, the future of the United States of America on the world stage. They are motivated to work very hard at mass dehumanization and furthering hate values, constantly praising Russia Putin, constantly focused on wrecking the Joe Biden way of doing things. Trump has made it clear he doesn't care about the actual work of the presidency. Just don't get why people don't see how motivated, determined, concerned and focused Donald Trump and all his supporters are working very hard at self-harm to USA. Wake up America, you are dealing with a military junta situation. A military junta is a system of government led by a committee of military leaders. The term junta means meeting or committee and originated in the national and local junta organized by the Spanish resistance to Napoleon's invasion of Spain in 1808. The term is now used to refer to an authoritarian form of government characterized by oligarchic military dictatorship, as distinguished from other categories of authoritarian rule, specifically strongman autocratic military dictatorships, machine oligarchic party dictatorships, and bossism autocratic party dictatorships. They already said a few days ago they passed a policy to have the military start working with local law enforcement starting in the next 90 days. They have oligarchy playing office and refuse to listen to anyone. The Republicans even admit they aren't told about things half the time and are in constant confusion. And to top it all off, well, a user was mentioning in Pete Hegseth's book he personally wrote about wanting a military junta. Why do you think they keep kicking out military officials and ignoring constitutions and your rights in general? This is why I very pragmatically decided to hope that as what he would do when he won the 2016 election. It has been almost 10 years. He didn't pretend back then and he is not going to pretend now. He is being a dictator. We should treat him as such. It makes me so happy to know that Donald Trump's hatred for this woman likely keeps him awake at night. I hope she keeps coming for him every chance she gets. I love her. I want her to keep going and run that orange shit stain out of office, along with his entire disgraceful administration. This administration is a bad reality TV show being funded by taxpayer dollars. I wish we could cancel this show, but they have a 4-year contract. I fall more in love with Jasmine every time she speaks truth to power. What an incredible breath of fresh air she has turned out to be. This exact quote is not real, but the sentiment appears to be. I do wish people would tone down the sarcastic quotes, though. We live at a time where some of the most outlandish things are being given legitimacy. Let us not add to the pile of near slenderous shit that is piling up. Trump and his goons have said and done plenty of egregiously heinous things. Let us not make up more random bullshit. Exactly, turning up the noise-to-signal ratio is a huge part of their strategy. We don't have to make shit up or exaggerate to paint them up as criminals and traitors. They ray doing a fine job without us. When we do it, we make neutral people look in, see that we ray stretching the truth, decide we ray both bad and then walk away. Just tell it like it is, or to put it another way, who is the bigger clown, the clown, or the person making fun of a clown?